I love my job. And I'm grateful, I'm honored, I'm privileged, I'm blessed always when I have the opportunity to have individuals stop by and kind of hang out with us. And of course, we can see him, but he cannot see us, of course. And we want to make sure he's aware of that. I don't want to. I don't want him to start panicking on me and say, "Well, where is he? Where is he? Where is he?" We can see you, Gerald, but you can't see us, and we are grateful that you have taken time out of your afternoon to be here with us today. Welcome to the GMAP Broadcast Network, GMAP TV. How are you today? Let me ask you that.
Well, Reverend Kevin, I share your pleasure at being here and happy Friday, or I'll say happier Friday, since the world at large is it's hard to put the adjective happy on anything these days.
I tell you, that is so true. But you know what? I am going to accept my blessings and say it is a happy Friday. And I am not going to let you devalue that statement and say, well, no, it's happy Friday, Gerald. And I'm grateful that you have taken time out to be here with us today. Thank you so much. For those that don't know, of course, Gerald is one of our featured authors on the GMAP Broadcast Network, GMAP TV. We want you to simply stop by our platform at gmap1.com. Click on the tab that is simply titled Featured Authors. You will see a copy of the publication that I am currently showing you on our television screen, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited to learn a little bit more about it as time and days and weeks goes ahead. Preacher raises the day. Oh my goodness, that's going to gain attention right there. But before
It's
we
a
get
bit of
into
a
that,
provocative title. I agree. I
oh
agree.
my goodness, do me a kind favor if you don't mind. Introduce yourself. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you're from. Who is Gerald Everett Jones?
Well, I am a freelance writer and have been for really quite a while, as you can tell from I'm not a kid anymore. But I have written 12 novels. I turned to writing fiction later in my career. I wrote business and technical books for years and years. And I had a what you call a mainstream agent, big agency representing me. And when I told them I was turning to fiction, they said, "Well, have a nice life, kid." So I have developed my own small imprint, and as I say, I've published a dozen books, and those have won actually 14 awards in the last 2 years. And this book, Preacher Raises the Dead, just released last month, is the third in a mystery series. And the protagonist is Evan Wycliffe, who I would describe as an agnostic minister, if you will. He's a man of the cloth who has doubts. And he's an amateur sleuth in that, what in the mystery genre they would call an amateur sleuth. In that, in this small farm town in southern Missouri where he lives, often people turn to him because he's really the only person with a curious mind who's willing to follow and resolve problems that other people don't seem to be willing to pay attention to. And in the first book of the series, which is there's a series of three so far. In the first book of this series, it's a preacher finds a corpse. And actually, this part of the world, southern Missouri, is where my ancestors are from. And it was actually inspired by a true event in my family story. There was a suicide that had to do with a land grab. And in the farming community, especially in this part of the world, it can be difficult to actually prove that you own a piece of land because it has to do with disputes during the Civil War, and then going back to the Indians and the Osage Indians that lived in this part of the world. But Evan actually had returned to this part of to his roots in southern Missouri after a rather difficult college education. He'd been in divinity school, and he'd intended to go into the ministry, and he became somewhat disillusioned. And then he decided, okay, well, I'm going to turn to astrophysics and astronomy. Maybe I can get some answers there. And that didn't quite work out. So he was rather disillusioned, came home, got work. It's hard to get work in the farm community, as people who live in those places know. And so he got gigs as a guest preacher, and also, I mean, that didn't pay a lot. So he also, because he was pretty good with a keyboard and online investigation, he became a skip tracer for the local car dealer to investigate people who skipped on their auto loans. So that's really how he starts out. And in the second book in the series, Preacher Fakes a Miracle, he befriends a schizophrenic boy and an epileptic girl who are, some people think they're possessed of demons. And, he doesn't cure them, but he does befriend them, and he does help them. And in spite of himself, he gets reputation as a faith healer of all things. So here he is at the beginning of the third book, and his mentor, who's the African American pastor of the local Baptist church, says, Evan, I'm going to retire. I just can't, handle this anymore full time. And he says, you're the guy for the job. Well, Evan doesn't really want to be a full time minister, but he ends up stepping into the role. And this was right at the beginning of COVID. So he quickly realizes, oh my, I've got to, not only do I have to visit the sick and the dying, I've got to preside over weddings and funerals. And not too much of a spoiler, but in the very first pages of this book, he marches into a hospital to visit one of the congregants, and he finds that she's passed away from a heart attack. And he says to the nurse, well, I guess I'm too late. And she says, well, actually, no, she's sitting up and talking. So I had wanted to treat the phenomenon of near death experience in this book. And I ended up treating not only near death experience, but also coma, uh, dementia. And these are really, fascinating topics on the border, in that gray area between life and death. So uh, this one of the things that I do when I write mystery books, which I think helps them not only be delightful to readers, but perhaps win some awards for their uniqueness, is that I really don't have an outline when I write a mystery book. I just go where it wants to go.
Wow.
I put the characters on stage. I let them say what they want to say, go where they want to go. And in this book, as in the others, I really didn't know what was going to happen on the last page until I wrote it. So,
Wow. That's
so I
amazing.
will say, I will promise you, my mysteries are not predictable.
Ah, well, I am sure, I am confident that there are going to be a lot of viewers and listeners who are very interested in learning more and finding out what happens and how it all progresses and takes place. What would be the process? I mean, there are some individuals that may want to dig deep and find out a little bit more about some of your other writings. How can that be accomplished? Is there a website? Is there Amazon? Is there a location that they can go to find out more details about the publications you have?
Well, yes, all of my books are available on Amazon, and they're also available. Most of them are available on in EPUB format as well as Kindle, the non-Amazon format, and that's available from booksellers worldwide. But if you see the spelling of my name here, Gerald Everett Jones, I don't own the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not Jerry Jones, but I I use Everett, to set myself away from the the others that you might find in a web search. But if you go to GeraldEverettJones.com, there on the landing page is a button you can press to get the first book in the Preacher series without charge as a
Wow.
complimentary ebook.
Wow.
So Preacher finds a corpse. is there on the landing page, and that would get you started. Now, you don't have to read these books in series. This one just came out, and I think in some ways Preacher Raises the Dead is the most intriguing because of these questions that we all have about, well, what happens after we die? Well, I mean, I can't say that we've got a lot of answers, but we've certainly got a lot of intriguing questions. And I did a lot of research on this, not only in terms of the phenomenon of the brain surviving longer than doctors might expect. There's some research being done at the University of Virginia in near death experience and in what actually, people see a white light. Well, is that a memory of the birth experience? Uh, People meet their relatives. People lose their fear of death, and these are interviews that have been conducted with people who were presumed to be dead and came back.
Wow.
And so this is actually a medical, an area of serious medical research.
Right.
And I also had to research the legal aspects of it. And it turns out that the so-called right to die varies from one state in the United States to the other. And in Missouri, um, your physician and your family can decide to pull the plug in terms of taking off a respirator, but without your advance permission in writing before you become debilitated, they can't remove your feeding tube. So the thought behind this law, presumably, is oh, only God can take a life. Well, some people believe that, and some people don't.
Right. Right.
So it's a topic of controversy. About, I mean, even in the U.S. Congress, as we try to set policies for things like euthanasia and assisted suicide and those kinds of things. So
Right.
it's really an area of quite a lot of controversy.
Well, I know that some individuals may, in fact, want to reach out to you and maybe speak to you on a more individual basis about some of these very, very interesting topics that you have to share. What would be their process to do so? How can you be reached? How can people connect with you?
Well, on the website, GeraldEverettJones.com, there is a contact tab, and you can click that, and it sends me an email.
Mm.
And I'm happy um, to respond to those. I may have more questions than answers
Ah,
about many things.
well, I have someone that is also a featured author on our platform, and he's very determined and dedicated to share this information. And he has a publication out specifically called God's Existence, Truth or Fiction, The Answer Revealed. I I want to connect him with you and just have you two talk, share. His name is Gary R. Lindbergh. He's a
Gary
very interesting
Lindbergh,
fellow.
okay?
Gary R. Lindbergh. I definitely want you two to get together and talk and just share each other's views, because I'm sure that there's going to be some outstanding information that is shared with the both of you, and something will come out of it. I can't, I can't thank you enough for one reason. You accepted the invitation to be a part of our broadcast network family, to share your books and to allow us to present them to people around the world. Number two, I thank you so much for simply just stopping by and being here with us today and allowing us to be a part of your journey. I'm going to guarantee you this: we will be definitely inviting you back consistently to talk more in detail about not just this publication, but some of the other publications that you have written and
Well, I
released to
look
people.
forward to that. I
Oh,
look, I
I'm
mean,
I'm definitely going to do it. I'm going to reach out and make sure that we can have you here on a little bit more consistent basis, because I want to be able to give you time to share some of the some of the information that's located in your publication with the viewers and listeners around the world. And I mean, I'm overwhelmed with you being here with us today, and thank you for being a part of our family. I'm going to move over before I let you go and just allow you to share what's on your heart. and then we are going to get back to our regular scheduled program. But until then, I'm going to move over and say, Gerald Everett Jones, the floor is yours.
Well, that is very generous, and I appreciate the opportunity. I would like to mention, since we were talking about the website, I do have a blog there and I have a series of blog posts that I call the Thinking About Thinking series. And I often review books, not necessarily recent books, but books that have fascinated me, and often books that I have come across in my research for my various books. And one of the things, if I put on the other hat that Evan wears of inquiring scientist, astrophysics and astronomy and cosmology, I've recently come across quite a few very thought provoking, very head spinning books written by scientists about some of these theories that they call the godless universe. How could the universe create itself? How could the processes that physics and biochemistry now understand work together to create the world that we experience? It seems impossible. And then again, I've also run across books on consciousness, trying to explain, all right, who is the thinker of your thoughts? Okay, I'm not my thoughts. My thoughts change from moment to moment. I'm not, and the cells in my body aren't even the same cells I was born with. Who am I? What is myself? And even there are some very, very distinguished neuroscientists who are saying, you know something? We think consciousness may be a fundamental property of the universe. Maybe it's just something we can't measure with instruments. And that brings me back to some theology. The theologian Ernest Holmes came down and just came right out and said, you know something? God is all that there is.
That's right.
There was
That's
a
right.
big bang, and God said, let there be light. Well, how could whatever God created be other than something that's created out of itself?
Right. Right.
So, yeah, no, it's it can keep you awake at night, but it's definitely fun to
uh,
explore these questions.
I'm sure. And again, I'm just excited because I'm going to definitely be one out of the millions of viewers that we have across the world that will dig deeper and find out a little bit more intimate information and details about you, as well as the publications that you have written. Again, I want to thank you so very much for your time this afternoon. I will definitely be reaching out and inviting you back soon. For those of you that may have missed any portion of this, I'm going to definitely be taking time out to load it up on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to stop by our GMAP1.com and click on our YouTube logo, and it will take you directly to this live on air conversation. But until then, I just want to thank you again and appreciate your time and offer you the invitation to come back soon. I want you to have an outstanding rest of your day. Continue to be blessed and be a blessing to others with the publications that you are releasing to them. God bless you, Gerald, and you have a fantastic day, okay?
Thank you so much for the opportunity. And when it comes to storytelling, yes, I do live to serve.
Ha! Thank you so much. I will talk to you soon, and you have a wonderful day.
Thank you again.